this is an overview of the cat myology, beginning with the chest. Here we see our clavodeltoid, also called clavobrachialis. Here's our pectoantebrachialis, pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, and xiphyohumerales. Looking at our deep dissection, having cut and reflected those muscles, we can see in here our transversus costarum, which literally means the crosser of the ribs. 1, 2, 3 scalenus muscles, scalenus anterior, scalenus medius, and scalenus posterior, also called first, second, third. And the medius is so much longer than the rest, it's also given a third name, scalenus longus. Here we can see the rectus abdominis up in the chest area. Here we see a bit of our external abdominal oblique crossing that. Here we see our serratus ventralis, our levator scapulae dorsalis, even though it's the ventral one. And on the underside of the scapula, we have two muscles we can see right on the edge, teres major, and on the subscapular fossa, subscapularis. All right, looking at the abdominal wall, obviously, again, we can see our external abdominal oblique very nicely here. We reflect that back. Here's our rectus abdominis, our internal abdominal oblique. Note the fiber pattern is oblique on both, but perpendicular to one another. And then the deepest muscle of the group will be our transversus abdominis, which in humans has a transverse fiber pattern, but as you can see in your kitty cat, it's actually going to be another oblique fiber pattern. Moving on to the back. I know I shaved it. Here we have our clavotrapezius. One thing that's a little hard to see here is where the clavotrapezius ends and the clavobrachialis begins. They fuse together right at the clavicle. So we have a little seam here. On the day of the practical, the tag would either be here or here, but not right on the line. So here's our clavobrachialis, again, also called clavodeltoid. Here's our acromiodeltoid and spinodeltoid, CAS. Same thing's going to occur with the trapezius muscles. Clavotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, and spinotrapezius, CAS. Seeing in the middle here, but not differentiated very well, is a strap-like muscle that's kind of between our clavo and acromiotrapezius. This is the levator scapulae ventralis. And of course, here we can see the latissimus dorsi. Going deep, a lot of muscles to see going deep here. Beginning on the neck area, we have this deep muscle, which will be splenius capitis. The strap-like muscle coming down of the scapula is our rhomboideus capitis, also called occipitoscapularis. Here we have our rhomboideus minor, and a pretty nice division here between our rhomboideus minor and our rhomboideus major, which you will also see on the margin of the scapula, if you happen to have a view of this. Coming back up here on the scapula, we can see our underside is our subscapularis again, and there's this thin muscle here, same one we saw in the deep chest, levator scapulae dorsalis, or simply levator scapulae. On the scapula itself, with your deep dissections, you're able to see, here's our spine, so above it, supraspinatus, below it, infraspinatus, and then right on the margin here again, teres major. You may confuse teres major and rhomboideus major on a tight image, but you let the spine of the scapula be your guide there. You see the spine will be closer to the rhomboideus major. Here's again is our serratus ventralis. Now we get to our other serratus muscles. Right here, looking like little myotomes, is serratus dorsalis. You'll notice two patterns here. There's a shift right there. This pattern is reflective of serratus dorsalis cranialis and serratus dorsalis caudalis. Here we have two of our three erector spinae muscles showing very nicely. Spinalis dorsi, longissimus dorsi, and if we fold back on our serratus dorsalis, we can see iliocostalis. And I think you can see this on the film. Here we see little white tendons going to each rib, which is the insertion point of our iliocostalis. On the lower back, we can see our erector spinae group again, right along the vertebra, multifidus spinae, and all of this is longissimus spinae. We have our medial, intermediate, and lateral cords, if you will. All right, let's get back to the arm. I think we'll just do one side, then go to the other side and not worry too much about it. So, of course, again, reviewing clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinodeltoid. Here's your triceps, both the lateral and long head. Here we have very nicely kept brachioradialis. Here's our extensor carpi radialis. We have a long and short head, and you can just barely see the line there, but basically the long head is higher up. That's why it's long, because its origin is higher on the humerus. Here we can see our extensor digitorum communis. Here's our extensor digitorum lateralis. And now we're on the ulnar side, so extensor carpi ulnaris. All right, so flipping it over. Well, let's see if we can. I guess we got one deep, so let's
Frank,
take
can
a
you
look
do the triceps?
again.
I don't think you ever did the triceps group.
I just did.
Oh, you did? Oh.
I did lateral
Sorry.
and long head. Wow. I'm the old one who should be seen on. So again, triceps lateral head, triceps long head, and of course we cut and reflected the triceps lateral head to show two little muscles in here. Kind of together they look a bit like an hourglass, but we have our medial head of the tricep and our anconeus. We can also see the brachioradialis better here, and the muscle it's sitting on top of, which is the brachialis. All right, so we already saw this. Let's take a look at the deep on and the superficial on the medial aspect. Not a lot here to see on the arm because most of it's still chest muscles. Clavodeltoid, pectoantebrachialis, and pectoralis coming in. There's our Epitrochlearis. And of course, we'll cut that to show deep in a moment, but let's look at the forearm. We have four muscles here again. The short one right next to the extensor carpi radialis will be the pronator teres. Then we get our first flexor on this side, on the radial side, so flexor carpi radialis. Very oblong and shiny, palmaris longus, and then flexor carpi ulnaris. Looking at our deep dissection, once you cut the Epitrochlearis, we can see long head of the triceps brachii again, and then under here is the biceps brachii, which is going to be a little hard to see on the practical, but there it is. Okay, so the thigh.